and there's so much competition, but I think you've chosen the right one. This is a really fascinating movement. As it says at the bottom of the program page, when I first heard about it, from Massimo, of course, I assumed it was the Ahmadi large religion, which I've known for years, its headquarters in London. But it isn't. It's a group that I'd never heard of before. But there's an awful lot to learn about it, and we'll be hearing about it today. It's like a lot of the groups that we've been listening to, it has suffered enormous persecution, but it does live very peacefully in England. The people who are talking to us today anyway, and some of us had the privilege of going and staying with them for a few days, and they really are a very, very interesting group, and an unusual one, because new religious movement scholars don't all that often look at new Islamic groups, partly because quite a few of them are terrorists and we want to keep our lives alive. So, Massimo.
And Carolina.
Well, you're talking first.
Mm-hmm. So that was already said by Eileen, that in March 2024, a group of scholars, including Susan and David and Carolina and Eileen, went to the headquarters in United Kingdom of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light for a field trip. And what we did, we listened to their presentation, and then we offered comments, because at that stage we didn't know anything or very little about the religion. Okay. So the Ahmadi religion, which is not the Ahmadiyya community, let's say it at least 2 times to be clear, it's a Shia derivative new religion, and while the Ahmadiyya community is the Sunni derivative new religion, and find its roots in 12th Shia Islam, which is the religion of more than 80% of present-day Shiite, and its belief that the legitimate succession of Prophet Muhammad was through his cousin and son-in-law Ali and his descendants, who with him are honored the 12 Imams. And you see on the extreme left one without face, and this is the 12th Imam, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Askari, who disappeared as a child in the year 874. And some secular scholars, people of little faith, would say he was killed by the Sunnis. But the Shia, and that's an official doctrine, for instance, in the Islamic Republic of Iran, believe he never died. He went into a state of occultation from which he will come out in the end times. Now, many Muslims expect that when the world will be near its end, the world will be ruled on behalf of God by an eschatological figure known as the Mahdi or the Qaim or the riser from the family of Muhammad. And it will be preceded by yet another eschatological figure known as the Yamani, and the relation between the Yamani and the Qaim or the Mahdi, but Mahdi is used for different characters, will be the same as between John the Baptist and Jesus in Christianity. Now, during the history of the Shia, several characters have appeared claiming they were in contact with the 12th Imam and had been appointed by him as the spokesperson, and these claims have been resisted by the mainline Shia establishment, so they created new religions. And both in Sunni and Shia world, there have been several claimants to the role of the Mahdi. Some originated anti-colonial civil war against the Brits or the French, and they were the Mahdi we know more about. In 1999, in Iraq, Ahmed al-Hassan, a civil engineer, born in 1968 in Basra, claimed to have physically met with the 12th Imam, who gave him a special mission, and that he was the prophesied Yamani and will announce the coming soon of the Mahdi. But here things get confused because some followers believed he was announcing himself, so he was also himself the Mahdi. Now, these claims were regarded, as in the case of other claimants to the same things, as deeply and offensively heretic by the Shia establishment. And so al-Hassan and his followers were heavily persecuted both in Iran and in Iraq. And they were accused of having participating in violent riots, something that they deny. Al-Hassan was lastly seen and photographed in Iraq in 2007, after which he went into hiding, and reportedly he visited several countries and spent time in Sudan. But since he was not there, his followers in Iraq are, as often happens, divided into rival factions. So al-Hassan had a very radical position about the establishment, the Shia Ayatollah and great imams in both Iran and Iraq. They say they were basically false prophets betraying Islam, which of course didn't make him and his followers particularly popular in these countries. Now, after al-Hassan went into hiding in 2007, the movement fragmented into schisms. In reality, there were more than two groups, but the two main groups were known as the white banners and the black banners. And the white banners have an office in Najaf, Iraq, and they even have a Facebook page where allegedly Ahmed al-Hassan is still speaking, but these messages are suspiciously different from those before 2007, so some people believe they are spurious, and in fact the white banners are controlled by the Iraqi government. So as opposed to this, the group we will be talking about today is known as the black banners, and these are those who believe the office in Najaf is not really in contact with al-Hassan. And the two groups don't have good relationship between each other. In fact, the white banners in Najaf excommunicated the black banner, also known as Ahmadi religion of peace and light, in 2015 and again in 2023. The black banners, or AROPL, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, I will call now them the Ahmadis, and you will understand they are not the other Ahmadis, have the largest international outreach. They are present in a number of countries, while the white banners of the office of Najaf are mostly in Iraq. Now, the Ahmadis, our Ahmadis' raison d'etre is to proclaim to the world the teaching and mission of their leader, Abdullah Hashem, who is a college-educated US citizen, where he met as a professor Holy Folk at one stage, which is interesting. And he has an Egyptian father and an American mother. And in 2011, 2015, he reported that Al-Hassan informed him that he was the Mahdi. In other words, Al-Hassan was the precursor of John the Baptist, meaning the Yamani, and the Mahdi was Abdullah Hashem. The year was not coincidental, 2015, because in the saying of Prophet Muhammad, they found a prophecy that the death of a certain king will be followed by the appearance of the Mahdi. And based on a number of physical and other characteristics, they identified this king in King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, who died in 2015. So 2015, King Abdullah dies, and 2015, Abdullah Hashem proclaims himself as the Mahdi. Also, Abdullah Hashem is an Egyptian father, and there are other sayings of Muhammad about a companion from Egypt, so indicating, in their opinion, the Mahdi will be from Egypt. And they also have an interest in the ancient Egyptian religion. They believe was originally a monotheistic religion and became corrupted. And the sign of this, when we visited their headquarters, here and there are symbols of the ancient Egyptian religion, which will not normally find in a Muslim milieu. Now, the Ahmadis believe that Hashem's claims are believable because there are some criteria for being recognized as the Mahdi. And the first criterion is to be mentioned in the will of the previous prophet, or the prophet for the previous dispensation, meaning Muhammad. Now, most Sunni, or almost all Sunni, do not believe that Muhammad left a will, although he expressed the intention of writing one. But a will of the Prophet Muhammad is attested in Shia sources, and they read this Shia text, the will of Prophet Muhammad, as including the names of both Al-Hassan as the Yamani and Abdullah Hashem as the Mahdi or the Qaim. And they produced a huge Bible. Here you see Eileen Barker exploring their Bible. It's a massive book called The Goal of the Wise, translated into English in 2022, which is a huge book one needs to read. And we'll find different sources, 12 schism, esoteric tradition of Islam, now politically correctly called hyper Shia tradition, Alawism, Christian Gnosticism, Western esotericism, welcome. And what is popularly called by scholars of esoterica co-spirituality, so the meeting place of conspiracy theories and esotericism. So Hashem's theology follows a scheme that the scholars of Christianity will call dispensationalist, meaning the world went through different dispensations, actually 6, centered on Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. And now with Al-Hassan and Hashem, we are in the 7th covenant. Now, those familiar with other dispensationalist groups will recognize the theory that the laws of one covenant were very good for that period of time, but do not necessarily apply for other periods of time. And so they are superseded in the new covenant, and some are discarded and no longer apply. And also typical of the historical theology of the Ahmadis is that they believe that a new covenant is needed several times in history because humans are not loyal to God. They betray God, and so the covenant ends and another covenant is needed. Hashem also has esoteric interpretation, some of them already present in esoteric Islam, of the old covenants. For instance, about the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, he believes that the fruit was not an apple and was not Eve, but was Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, who was also present in the Garden of Eden in a previous incarnation. And Adam tried to seduce, perhaps to rape her, and that was the real original sin. Also, about Jesus, they teach that he was not crucified, which is typical Islamic. In some Islamic apologetics books, you have the word crucifixion, saying the Christians invented the crucifixion. And they say they are right, but the Christians are also right, because at one stage, when he was going to the Calvary, Jesus jumped souls with Simon of Cyrene, the Cyrenaeus. So the person who was crucified in the body of Jesus was Simon. And the soul of Jesus escaped with the body of Simon. He married Mary Magdalene, which is of course familiar to many readers of the Da Vinci Code, but their son was the prophet Mani. Of course, they should backdate the dates of prophet Mani of secular historians. From this, we already understand that the Ahmadis believe in reincarnation, as other esoteric Islamic groups. They even believe humans could reincarnate in animals or in rocks. And they believe in transmigration of souls even before death, like Jesus. Jesus' soul jumped into another body and he was not dead. And one soul can even be present in two bodies at the same time. Reincarnation is connected with what they call the great return, which is important for them. They claim that there are many prophets in history, actually 124,000, of which 313 are very high prophets called messengers. And some of them are known names: Socrates, Zeus, Aristotle, King Cyrus of Persia, Krishna, Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tse, Alexander the Great, but most are unknown prophets. And these prophets are coming back in the Raja, or the Great Return, meaning they reincarnate in the bodies of the companions of the leader of the religion, including those who live in London, in England. And if you go to England, you see this portrait of members of the religion alluding to the prophet they were in a previous incarnation. And I conclude my part and then pass to Carolina with eschatology. Between one incarnation and the next, the soul dwells in a purgatory-like space called Samarat. And when the number of incarnation is completed, they either go to heaven, which is on earth but in an inaccessible location, or to hell, which is in the sun, even if there is something even worse to hell for the really bad called the Great Terror. And now for the second part, the more esoteric, and I will pass to Carolina.